Welcome back to Pop Culture Explosion. I'm Mike, and I'm here with Jon Windu.
Mike,
John, what are we talking about today?
we are talking some Clone Wars.
The Clone Wars.
I can
Okay.
excitement
All right.
there.
Now you're a big Clone Wars fan, correct?
Yes, and not right away. It definitely took me about 5 years to actually get into it. Like even start it. Like I would always hear I think I'd heard decent things about it, and I just never got into it. And as it goes, like I was one day I was kind of bored. I'm like, all right, let's give it a shot because people I like and respected, they were raving about it. So I'm like, all right, I'm checking it out. What is the deal? And I took me. It was a little rough, but to start, but I fell in love like soon after, and everything about it, like I just extol the virtues of it and tell people to give it a shot, like I did.
Yeah. So my history with like Clone Wars was I never really bought into the animated, or I didn't get super heavy into books. It was always about, give me a movie type of thing.
Yeah,
But I had the original Clone Wars, the like really anime type, if you
yeah,
recall.
Tartakovsky stuff.
Yeah, like the real short clips. Like I
Okay,
had the DVDs of that.
yeah, like that was the old Gendy Tartakovsky style, and I'd seen that, and I didn't like. I'm like, okay, like I never got into it though, because I was just a movie guy to start.
Yeah, it was weird, right? And
Yeah.
so the fact that I wasn't an animated Star Wars fan necessarily, I was also at the time burned by the whole prequel thing. I really hated the prequels, and it's like, well, I hated Attack of the Clones, and now you're giving me more of this, and now it's animated. So I really was like,
And
this is not for me.
that was
Now,
a trap I
new
fell
gen,
into too.
what's that?
That was a trap I fell into too. I was just like
Yeah.
put off by the prequels. I think I got so excited and it got like that. I'm like, oh, and I didn't even think of how that could expand and actually flesh out those movies, the bit of those movies.
Well, see, nowadays with the next generation, my kids now are watching Star Wars, and we're going through all of the Star Wars movies right now. Like every Sunday at
Okay.
6 o'clock, we watch a Star Wars movie, and we just finished Empire Strikes Back, so now we're going into Jedi this coming weekend.
And then did you
So
start with prequels or did you start with the
we
original?
started with the prequels.
Oh,
Now here's the thing: after now 6 movies, because we didn't watch Rogue One because I thought it was a little much for them.
yeah.
It's PG-13, so my daughter's favorite is Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
And when we got to the new trilogy, or the old school trilogy, A New Hope and Empire, I was like, you like these, huh? And she was like, I like, she's in love with Anakin. And it's just that it just blows my mind, the difference now with the next generation. So now I'm actually a big fan now of the prequels. They've kind of really grown on me and everything. So now it's like the fact that the later, what I hear, because I haven't watched it, is the later portions of the Clone Wars have gotten more sophisticated, better, better story, especially like the seventh season and all this stuff.
Oh yeah.
So what we're talking about here is we're kind of going back to the beginning of this project with the Clone Wars movie, and that's kind of what we're talking about today, which starts it off. Um,
Flashback to 2008.
yeah, yeah. So wasn't this movie in the theater?
Yes, that's everyone was like I remember everyone got like excited like hey, we're getting a new Star Wars movie in the theater and oh, it's an animated. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
didn't go well. Yeah, I think it only not too bad, but I think it was up against like Dark Knight and
Oh,
originally. So I think it only totaled 35 million in its run.
which might not be too bad because animated films cost a lot less to make. So we
Dude,
have to
but
check.
the entire run is of 35 mil. That's like the entire. It's not like a $2 billion run that Avengers
Yeah,
had. But yeah,
yeah. And then the other thing was, if I'm not mistaken, so is Dave Filoni behind this project?
yes.
Now we've come to know him as being like this sort of George Lucas prodigy,
He was like,
and like our savior to actually push the franchise in a better place to keep them away from the Ryan Johnsons and whatever.
you know what? I I reserve. I don't like dubbing anyone a savior of anything. Like spin. I think Dave gets it a lot. He's studied under George. Like he was like George's like not intern, but like he studied under George. He's Padawan, if you like, if you want to go that route.
Legit. Okay.
But like, yeah, like he was there, like studying, like working with George. George was teaching him all stuff, like why he made Star Wars. Like, and it all got back to he always says in interviews, like make it. Star Wars is to be made for like kids. Keep that in mind when you're storytelling. And we definitely see that here.
Yeah, and the other guy to mention would be Jon Favreau.
Yeah.
So it's like if we get those two guys in a room,
they met.
I think
Wars.
At the what?
They met on Clone Wars when they were at Lucas when
Yeah.
the TV show was in production because I think Favreau had Iron Man. He was doing post production on up at Skywalker Ranch out there in LA or in San Francisco, and they met. And like in the back halls of in the coffee shop or wherever at the Skywalker Ranch, and they just started talking and like, hey, can kind of traded barbs. Hey, you want to see this? Or hey, can I see that sort of thing? And next thing you know, he's Dave Filoni grabbed and got Favreau to do a voice of some Mandalorian.
Right. So those two, I'll be looking forward to more of their work. So kind of switching it back gears to the sort of episode, because you can go all different directions with Star Wars, and we probably will. But the Clone Wars animated movie, this movie came out, 07, 08, and basically launched the Clone Wars TV series, right? And then we got recently a 7th season. So in terms of the movie, I saw it a long time ago. I rewatched most of it again for this episode we're talking about. I see what you were saying in the beginning about having sort of a rough start, because I did give the Clone Wars animated series a shot, but I just couldn't get past the first half a dozen episodes. It was just kind of like, this is not really, but I know that later on it pays off. So that's where I'm at. So it's like, okay, I'm going to finish this movie. I do like it. Of course, the animation is eye candy. It's great to look at. It's fun to see them playing around with Anakin's character, them introducing Ahsoka and all this stuff, which I know that she has like a very serious fan following, right? I know that about her. I don't see it just yet, but I get it.
And I think I'd be interested as we go through it here to really see your evolution, like how you view her character, her evolution of a character. You were just saying the point you're driving at, it lays the groundwork for this series and what's to come here on this side of the quote unquote expanded Star Wars universe.
Well, and it seems like they did so much between episode 2 and 3. I mean, you've got the Clone Wars, the movie, you have the old cartoon, you have the series. There's tons of comic books. I mean, because I bought a lot of the comics, back in that era.
Stories set in that era, and like we're seeing more of it now. Like the more I think about, like when the movies came out, like those prequels, like man, I was a kid. I didn't want to see a movie about trade routes and taxation. But the more you think of it, you more you realize it goes to underlying cores, and we'll see that as we go along in the series. But I think this movie lays a nice groundwork of starting to talk about a lot of them. You'll see Palpatine and his scheming as the Chancellor. You'll see the Jedi, and the Jedi, like one of the great. I mean, you and I will disagree on Rian Johnson, but I think Rian Johnson, when he put into Last Jedi, was the Jedi weren't perfect. The Jedi were pretty arrogant. Like they thought that they had their flaws. They weren't this perfect, idealized thing that everyone, all of us fans make them out to be. So I think we'll see that. Like, and these are all thoughts that were there to begin with. George Lucas put in there that didn't necessarily come off well in the prequels or weren't executed, to perfection. And I think the good thing about the movie, which will lead into the show, it gives room to really flesh those ideas out and bring it back just to lay that groundwork. So what's to come.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to. I don't know if I've 100% committed to doing this, but now I got my daughter. You know, she saw my comic book collection. She pulled out everything Star Wars. She's reading through this stuff, and so she's kind of pulling me along. Like, okay, yeah, let's watch that. Because we are going through all the
Like how
movies.
you how your reactions then, how you evolve as a viewer then, of your daughter really getting into it and bringing you along for the ride. I think that could be really
Yeah, and it's different generations being pulled along in different ways. Everybody could connect to Star Wars differently,
cool.
and
Yeah.
they all have things they want out of it and what they don't like about it. In the case of Ryan Johnson, I will say he's not a bad filmmaker.
No.
You know, uh, I don't agree with some of the things that he did, and I think that's another episode we could
Yes.
talk about.
That'll be its own thing. Like, and I
That's
agree.
its own animal,
A lot
The
of stuff,
Last Jedi.
but there's a lot of tonally some stuff that I thought he nailed at times.
Yeah.
But yeah, that
So there's good and bad.
there is.
There's the light side and the dark side. We got to get Mark Hamill on here.
There's a whole lot of gray, and I think that's can be where some of the most interesting stuff, and that'll be explored here, even in the movie a little bit too, where I, even this animated movie, you're starting to see more. You're seeing, bounty hunters, and you're seeing, slowly you're seeing more depth of, of Senate intrigue that starts to play out, or trouble with the Huts. There's the Hut cartel. So I and that kind of leads me to some of the stuff I didn't care for. I kind of view it as the good, the bad, and just like overall, I think it's a decent start.
Yeah, and it just sounds like that's what's kind of drawing me to watching the series is because it sounds like it gets more sophisticated.
Yeah.
And you have other characters that they're putting in there that are like fan favorite characters.
So
Uh,
like here we meet Rex as one of the clone troopers. That's gonna be one of the primary clone troopers that will eventually, the stories will revolve around. And then
yeah,
those are primarily the two new introductions, with along with some other Jedi too. But yeah,
yeah. Well, and plus, I'm assuming you'll get to see a little bit more of the Jedi's, like Kit Fisto or Shaak Ti or something, or Plo Koon. Well, I have seen enough of it to know that he's got a full episode. Where you didn't get to see, I had the figures when they came out back in '02 or whatever. Of course, we bought all the toys. But you didn't get to see him that much in the movies.
yeah.
It was like, that action scene in Revenge of the Sith when they go to arrest Palpatine. He kills him like that. I mean,
So they
uh,
got the Boba Fett treatment.
yeah. I mean, you always have these great characters and they're on the screen for 30 seconds. So this is a great playground to potentially see more of that.
Yeah,
More of those characters.
I really like what they do with the clones. We've met Rex here, and we get a little bit with the other, the interaction with the other clones. But we're going to have Rex, we're going to have Cody, Fives, Echo. We'll get to them each, and this goes to the voice acting. The actor does all the like a different take on each of the clones for the most part, and it's really cool to see. A lot of the clones that we follow will have their own distinct individual personalities that that differentiates them from the face looking the same face that the next guy to them has. So I really dig that.
Yeah. All right. Well, so I would say final thoughts here. Um, I started the journey already.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and based on my shift in, I guess my mentality towards it has changed because I do like the prequels now. I enjoy them. I really Anakin has grown on me. Always loved Obi-Wan. Uh, and my kids love it. So started the movie. I'm liking it already. They have Jabba in there and all this stuff. I mean, that's just fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to start this journey, and we'll probably be back talking about this. Any final thoughts?
Um, this is I like to if anyone's out there, on the fence whether they should do it, I say yes. But like, think of Parks and Rec, think of The Office. Those first seasons, they were still like getting their footing, of how they wanted to tell their stories, and that's true here. The movie was definitely there's ups and downs, and I think it's a good starting point to see where we're at now to where we're going to end up at the end of season 7 of the show. And I think it's for the best overall because you get to see that evolution. As you go on the ride, you get to see how these characters evolve from Rex to Anakin. I mean, Ahsoka is by far one of the biggest, best story arcs out there. But you get to see more in depth with Maul and even some guest stars that you thought were gone that will pop up. So
Yep. And I'm looking forward to seeing that.
and whole new mythologies too. I mean, a little tease of the Night Sisters is a great faction of the Force.
Yep.
So,
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today, Jon Windu. And make sure to like, share, subscribe. Check out our Facebook page, Pop Culture Explosion on Facebook.
can't get out of this box if you don't hit subscribe. He's going to keep me locked in here.
That's right. So, and go watch the Clone Wars. It's on Disney Plus. And let us know what you think and continue the conversation below. That being said, till next time.
All right.